COVIDSafe app has faced a lot of criticism. No evidence yet that it's helped in any contact tracing. Surely that's a concern.
No, the app is working exactly as it intended to be. It's designed there to assist with manual tracing. It's designed to augment it. It's being used over 300 times now by health officials to ensure that manual tracing is picking up all of the various contacts. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. You're coming from a proposition that if the app doesn't find something that manual tracing doesn't, it's a failure. I would argue against that. They're designed to work together and they're doing just that.
I'm coming from a place where when you look at the information provided by the Digital Transformation Agency, it says that it's quite ineffective in many instances in picking up those contacts if the phone is locked. As it may, it was less than 50% if your phone was locked and it was an iPhone talking to an iPhone, the same for an iPhone talking to an Android. Surely that's a concern that it's not working.
Well, the DTA made it clear. It's now had 8 releases. The last one went in last night, so the app improves all the time. But it's using the native Bluetooth on the handset. So the limitation will always be what the handset allows you to do. And certainly if the app is in the background on an iOS device, it's locked, connecting to another iOS device, it is not as effective as an Android device with the app in the foreground unlocked. Now that's got to do with the handset, not to do with the app. And of course, we're working with Apple and Google to get the handset Bluetooth signal as strong as possible. But that doesn't mean it's not effective. It doesn't mean it's not working.
I mean, isn't that splitting hairs, though, to say the app is effective, but the issues with the handset? One can't exist without the other. And people are going about their day thinking that their app is working and that it's making contacts when it's not.
Well, for the vast majority of cases, the app is working as intended to be, and Australians should ensure that indeed the app is open. So if they've reset their phone or restarted or ran out of battery, they of course have to restart their app as well. But remember, the app is just one part of the defence. It's not more important, less important than everything else, like social distancing, washing your hands, not doing large demonstrations on the streets, keeping within the square metre rule. All of these things build a defence, and the app is just one small part of it. In military parlance, if you like, it's like saying to soldiers, you don't need a weapon because artillery and tank fire will keep you safe, which might be fine until a time, unless the enemy gets awfully close. So all of these things are needed to keep the nation safe, and they all play their part working together.
Using that analogy, isn't it more like saying, look, the bullet works, but the gun doesn't?
Not at all. No, it's simply saying that the opportunity for the app is there to assist with a manual tracing effort. The app was never meant to replace manual tracing, and of course it's up to state health officials how they use it. It was there simply to assist with, to bolster, to augment, and it's doing that. Being used over 300 times to confirm what manual traces are saying. But the app does more than that, of course. If state health decides that it needs not just 15 minutes worth of contact, it might need lesser, as Premier Andrews was perhaps alluding to, then the app will allow that to happen. This is a long fight. This is not going to be over next month. And until there's a vaccine, praise God, hopefully it'll be in 6 months, but it might be in 6 years. We don't know. We're going to need everything in our arsenal to help, and the app is one part of that. It's improving every week. Release number 8 is out now. 34 nations of the world are now using apps. The Sachs Institute says it's crucial. The University of Adelaide says ours is the best of all 34 out there. The chief medical officers, the medical professionals are all saying that it's an important part of our arsenal in defeating the virus. I think we should take all of those institutes and all of those medical professionals at their word.
But just when you say that it's being used to confirm manual tracing, there's no evidence at this point that the app's actually been used to pick up any extra contacts that we haven't already had to do through manual tracing. And in that time, there's still plenty of cases where we don't know where people acquired coronavirus from. So it's not working in that instance either.
Well, if we were in Florida with 15,000 cases per day, I bet the governor of Florida desperately wished he had our app, because there's no way manual tracing can pick up 15,000. Our app is designed to deal with the best of times and the worst of times. It's designed to augment and assist manual tracing.
Putting aside what's happening in Florida, if we look at what's happening in Australia, there are no contacts that have been picked up by the app that haven't already had to be done by manual tracing.
That's correct, and that's a good thing, that we've got so few cases that manual tracing is being effective and the app is able to actually confirm what's happening. Could you imagine if
but
the
we
number
also
of
have hundreds
infections
of cases
or the rate
where they
was
haven't
higher?
been able to confirm the tracing.
That's right, because 6.7 million Australians have downloaded the app. There's 18 plus million Australians with mobile phones. It just goes to show we need more and more Australians to download the app. The more clearly, the better. And I'd encourage all Australians. This is the most secure bit of technology government has got in terms of protecting credentials. It works as intended, as the 300 cases have shown, and I'd encourage everyone, download the app and ensure that it's working and that it's on.
As at today, what is the current level of picking up those Bluetooth handshake connections if your phone is locked?
It varies from handset to handset, from operating system to operating system, and from Android to Google. So the effectiveness from Android to Android is excellent, closing on 100%. The effectiveness from Android to iOS drops down. The effectiveness from an iOS iPhone 11 running the latest software will vary when it connects to an iPhone version 7. So there's not one rate or one level that it connects to, but right now it's effective and it's working well.
What's the level, though, iPhone to iPhone? You've just said that Android to Android's 100%. Why don't you know that for iPhone to iPhone?
Well, we work on moderate, high, very high, and the DTA has said it's moderately effective, which is circa about 50% of the time, if you're using an iOS with the application in the background and the phone is locked, seeking to do a connection to an iPhone in exactly the same state. But again, it varies depending upon the handset and the level of software or the version of software being used. And that's why we're working with Apple and Google. Apple and Google could fix this tomorrow with their exposure notification framework, which was their way of doing things, with an app in the background with a locked phone. The iOS or the Bluetooth works perfectly. So Apple could fix this tomorrow. They could actually ensure that the Bluetooth strength works at the highest possible level tomorrow for applications built in a sovereign framework. And we're working with Apple constructively on this.
Okay, so you've just said, as at today, it's that moderate level, which the Data and Transformation Agency defines as 25 to 50%. What kind of comfort is that for Australians who've been told they need to download this app to protect us against a deadly virus, that if they have it running as advised, it will work about a quarter of the time?
Well, that's not the case, because that's from a application working in the background on an iOS device with the phone locked, connecting to a device in exactly the same state. And of course, it's connecting to many devices, many different operating systems in many different states. So the way you've summarised is not correct. It's up to 50% of the time in that particular state, speaking to a phone in that state. And of course, the app is only one measure. It's one approach. It's one way to augment manual tracing. And we should be encouraging Australians to do everything that health professionals recommend. Wash your hands, social distance, avoid large demonstrations, keep the square meterage, download the app. All of these things are all important because they all work together. So cherry picking something because it suits Labor's agenda is not part of what Team Australia is about. We need to be backing in every single measure because they work together.
Okay, we're not cherry-picking something to suit Labor's agenda. This is data from the Data Transformation Agency, which is the one you oversee, that is sourced for the government. That is a very common scenario in that someone would be out and about with their phone locked and away. That's the scenario that's been put forward, that they would say, look, this is going to work, this is going to help trace people. Are you not concerned that this is creating a sense of complacency with people? They think they're safe, that their matches are being recorded, when if they have their phone locked, there's about a quarter of a chance that it is.
No, I'm not concerned that people are being complacent because of the app. There's 6.7 million Australians who have downloaded it, which means you don't know which other Australians have downloaded the app. You've got no idea if the person next to you has downloaded it, which is why we want as many Australians as possible to download and use the app. It's just one more part of the arsenal in which we're going to defeat the virus. No one is walking around thinking, I've got my app, therefore I can engage in large-scale demonstrations or I can be in crowded restaurants. Everyone knows they need to wash their hands. They need to keep social distancing. They need to avoid demonstrations. They need to keep the square meterage rules and whatever advice health officials have given. No one is walking around. No one I've spoken to has said, I'm fine because I've got my app. Everyone understands it's just part of the whole arsenal of effort we've got. And it's important we continue to improve that and it's important that as many people as possible download it.
Government Services Minister Stuart Robert, thank you for your time.
Great pleasure.